Hey y'all, and welcome back to Mama's Got Something to Say, episode 12. I know, it's been a moment since you've heard me or seen me. Life be lifin', and spring break happened, and I've kind of prioritized everything other than this podcast. So, with that being said, we're back, baby. We're back. I hope you all had a great Masters Week and a good spring break. For my locals and those of you who are afar listening to me, I just hope you had a great week. So, I have my notes here. We are going to be talking about the vacation that Chris and I took. It was 6 days. So it was from Wednesday. This was from a Wednesday to a Tuesday. Okay. And if you don't know, we took the ambulance, the one that we converted into a camper. We bought it for $1,000 on Marketplace. We put 2 batteries in it to crunk right up. We ended up taking the bench out and we put a full-size bed there, and we just made like a couple of modifications to it, and yeah, it worked out really well. Also, this is what direct sunlight in Florida does to me. This was not a cold sore. It was actually a blister. Love that. Alrighty, so we left on Wednesday, April 8th. Alright, day 1. I'm reading off of my notes here. We had a hiccup an hour and a half into our trip. We live in Grovetown. We have land in Rennes. So about an hour and a half outside of Rennes is where we had our hiccup. What we thought was a flat tire was actually the wheel studs, the little things that hold your wheel on, that you put your wheel onto. Yeah, all 8 completely broke off, and we were in for a ride. We initially just thought that we blew a tire, and then the ass end of the ambulance started doing this as we're trying to go around a curve. And so thankfully my husband got us to a very safe spot on the side of the road. And we originally were like, we got out of the ambulance and we were like, all the wheels are fine. They're fine and stuff like that. And so I'm like, well, why don't I record you and you back up or pull forward? So I'm recording on the side of the road. I'm like this, recording. And next thing you know, he backs up like 3 to 5 foot, and his backside goes, whoa. And I'm like, yep, that ain't supposed to happen. And then we figured out what happened. The wheel studs left the chat real quick. And he also spoke in his ambulance group. He said something about it, and then he had mentioned it, and then a guy had come back and was like, I bet you didn't even feel anything. There was no signs or nothing. And he was like, yeah, we thought we busted a tire. And they were also saying that usually happens between like 250 and 300,000 miles. Not the mileage that we had, which is, I think under 180 or 90. Any hoozles. So we are stuck on the side of the road. All right. We immediately get on the phone with the insurance, trying to make a roadside claim, and they were very little help. So I get on my phone and I start researching people. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't help you. We can't help you. All this stuff. And we're like, great. So 3 hours later, roadside assistant calls us back, and they were like, all right, we found somebody, but they're going to be 2 hours. And we're like, well, we have a bed in the back that we're going to go chill on. And so that's what we did. We were able to crank the ambulance still crunk up. So we crunk it up, we blasted the air, and we just hung out in the back for a little bit. Also, you know how everyone makes fun of the Dollar Generals just in the middle of nowhere, just a random Dollar General where there's nothing else around? Yeah, we just so happened to stop right in front of one. It was right across the street. So, we were actually on the way to Baxley, Georgia, to a Walmart. And that's where we were going to go pick up our groceries. And so we were maybe 45 minutes away. Uh, yeah, so we didn't have anything. I mean, we just had our drinks that we left the house with that morning. So I was like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. And don't get me wrong, we have a little portable toilet, my little kitty litter toilet, all right? But I wasn't ready to use that yet. I'm like, I can just Frogger across the highway, and it wasn't that busy. And so I went over there and I got us some snacks and some drinks, and I used the bathroom, and everything was dandy. So let's fast forward to when the wrecker got there. Uh, yeah, we had 55 gallons of diesel. We had filled up, the ambulance was full, and the guy's trying to get it on the back of his wrecker, and he's like, is this thing loaded down? And I'm like, yeah, with 55 gallons of diesel. I mean, it's a fudging ambulance. What did you expect? And it was really hard for him to like get the hydraulics to work, to like get it up. And then finally he got it. And I'm like, great. I immediately had more anxiety than I already had. So it's a single cab wrecker. And clearly, we have no other vehicle. We had to ride with this guy to the parts store that he was dropping us off at. And so I get up there and I'm in the middle, and Chris gets beside me, and I'm looking around and I'm like, there ain't a seatbelt. Lovely. We love that. And so I'm like hanging on to his leg for dear life. Well, this guy brought the shittiest wrecker to come get us. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful that he even tried, that we even got help. Because we had spoke to someone before who had stopped to try and help us. And he was like, hey, good luck. I've seen people stirring it out here for a day or two before they get a wrecker. So I am grateful. But this guy, every time he went to go switch into a gear, he's grinding into that gear because it just doesn't want to go. All right. And then whenever he does get it in there, it immediately pops out of gear. And so I'm freaking the fudge out. Yeah, that was not fun. We did 25, 30 minutes of that. And I almost kissed the ground when I got out of there. So we ended up getting towed to a Napa Auto Parts. Shoot, I wish that I could remember that tiny little town that we were in, but the people were so amazing. The owner of the company was just so kind and so sweet. When we got there, they already had the parts on the counter, and it was about 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours before that store closed. And so we got there, we got the parts. Chris started working to get it all taken apart, and it was a little more complex than what we had anticipated. But Chris got it done in an hour and a half. Thankfully, the owner of the Napa that we were at was very helpful. He went in and he brought out a $120-$130 part that still had like the plastic on it, and he's like taking it apart to help Chris out, and that was really, really cool of him. And then we had they're building a firehouse, a new firehouse that was right next door, and so the construction foreman came over with a sledgehammer and helped out. I think he said it was like a 3-pound little sledgehammer thingy. I don't know. But he helped out as much as he could. And then he knew a bunch of people there. And then the police showed up and had their lights on until we were done. And they were super cool about it. And dang, I wish I could remember that little town. It'll come to me later. And so, shoot, I'm going to text my husband right now and ask him what was that. So yeah, so he got it done, and at this point we're basically a day behind. It's 6 o'clock, 6:30 before he gets done, and we are just at this point we are spent. We are mentally spent. We are starving. We hadn't had lunch yet. Oh, Metter. We were at the Napa Auto in Metter, Georgia. So if you ever need anything from Metter, Georgia, mechanically, go see Mr. Morgan at Napa Auto Parts and tell him that the people with the broke down ambulance sent you. um, so, yeah, we were at this point, he gets it done. You know, we're shaking hands and thank you so much. And finally, the cops were giving us recommendations on where to go eat because we are so hungry. The only thing we had eaten that day was a Lunchable, one Lunchable each. And so we go on down the road and we hit up this barbecue joint. And it was really, really good. And the girl inside, you know, we had just been going through it, and then this poor girl, she needed somebody to talk to, so she's going through it, and so I'm a listening ear, and yeah, I hope that she's doing okay now. So anyway, so we are regrouping at dinner. We're sitting down and we're eating, and I'm like, all right, what is the plan for the night? We're gonna go to Baxley, which is at this point we had to backtrack from where we were about 30 minutes. So now we're like close to an hour and 15, hour and a half away from Baxley, Georgia, I believe. And so we're like, all right, so we're going to go to Walmart and we're going to get groceries. And then after that, we'll figure out what we're doing. So we get back on the road after dinner and we're just trucking along. We're both a little anxious. I am more of a nervous Nancy and just riddled with anxiety at every little creek and bump in the road. And I'm like, great, you know, because we didn't think we were going to make it this far after this incident. And, so we get to Baxley Walmart, all right? Baxley Walmart. Whew. It is kind of like, I'm trying to think of a Walmart in our area that it would be similar to. Oh boy. I'm not even sure. Waynesboro. That reminds me a lot of a Waynesboro Walmart. It's kind of small. So, nobody wanted to get the carts, not even the cart boys. There were carts everywhere in that parking lot other than the cart return. Because the cart returns were so full. Like, they were spilling out into the aisle, like the road. And we drove from one side of the parking lot to the other side, and everywhere was carts. And I'm just like, damn. So, at this point we had decided we're like, all right, we ain't gonna make it to the Wildwood, Florida KOA tonight. Because that's originally where we were supposed to stop. And it had a pool that we wanted to spend the afternoon in the pool. Well, at this point, it is 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night. And we're like, yeah, pool day's over. So now we really gotta lock in and get some miles down. So we go from Baxley to Waycross, and we're like, let's call the Cracker Barrel in Waycross, because if you don't know, at a lot of them, I don't know if it's all of them, but I know a lot of them, you can park in the back and sleep. You can just stay overnight and then go on in the morning. So I called there just to make sure, and the manager was not so friendly on the phone. His customer service kind of sucked. So he basically said, yeah, click. when I'm like, hey, do you guys allow overnight? And he's like, yeah, click. All right, cool, whatever. See you later. We ended up pulling in at around 10:45 or 11, and whew, it is very bright in that parking lot. And I mean, security, that's cool and all. So we slept in a Cracker Barrel parking lot day one. We had all of this stuff happen during day one, and we ended up sleeping in the parking lot. And it was fine. This was our first night sleeping in the ambulance, and it turned out fine. So day two, we really had to get some miles in day two. I'm thinking it was like 5-6 hour drive, and through all of this, we are doing straight back roads. We are not doing interstate, nothing. And we had decided that before we left the house. Not because of the tire incident, but just because you just see more things when you do back roads. You know, what are you missing out on the highway? Yeah, it's a little bit faster, but in a Buc-ee's, I mean, I love Buc-ee's, don't get me wrong. But the back roads is where we just kind of felt safest. All right, so the next morning, we had to get some miles under us to make it to Bradenton. We had already booked a KOA in Bradenton down there, and we had made a couple stops, and we went through one little town, and it was, I can't remember what town it was, but I think we were already in Florida when we hit it, and I was like, ooh, there's a Dollar Tree. That is like my target. So we stopped at the Dollar Tree, and I think it was like an old Walgreens or something, you know, but it just looked supersized, and I'm like, well, they gotta have way more shit than what regular ones have. And so we stopped in, and we got like some last minute items that we're like, oh yeah, we forgot this, and we need loofahs, and I think I got a little broom, and I got some other shit. And then I made Chris buy me a bunch of snacks and stuff because I'm a big snacker. So we made it down to Bradenton maybe 1 o'clock, 1:30, maybe a little bit. It was before 3, I believe. And so we got checked in, and this little KOA in Bradenton, although it does not have a pool, it's very family and kid friendly. Now there are some things that you do have to purchase separately. I believe there's like a petting zoo. There's a little farmer's market every day. On the weekends, they have like a little coffee truck. They have a little place that you can eat. But I believe the farmer's market is open. Pretty much everything that they offer is open until 5 o'clock, and then they shut down. So it's like a farm, and then I believe it is like an animal rescue, because they had zebras, they had buffalo, gazelles, I want to say gazelles, kangaroos, and just different farm animals. They had cats everywhere, but they were like so friendly. So we got there, and we set up half of our camp. We didn't set everything up because we knew the next day we were going to have to pack it all up and get back. You know, we'd have to go 6-7 minutes down the road to get where we were originally going. So the bathhouse there was very clean. It's very nice property, very clean property. So we really enjoyed it. I would really like to stay more. A little longer if we ever stay there again. So, and then the next morning we woke up really early because we're like, we got to get in line to the Freedom 500 early. And what do you know? We got there like 8:15, and there was already people lined up. There was like 5-6 people lined up already. So we ended up pulling up behind Travis Pastrana's little, I think his burnout cars that he was going to use for the burnout. Now this is on Friday. So Friday morning, we pull up to the Freedom 500, pulled up to the gates. And so we're like, we're pumped because this is why we came down to Florida in the first place, was just this race. It's where Chris and I got engaged last year during the fireworks. And so we were so freaking pumped, so ready. So then I'm in the back and I'm doing my hair. Chris had crunked the truck up and I plugged my wand in. I'm doing my makeup. And so I'd already done my makeup. I made me a little iced coffee and I'm doing my hair. And I'm like just getting done with my hair. And we have the back doors open so we can get some air in there. And Chris comes around the corner to the back and he was like, babe, Cletus is walking up to people talking to him. And I'm like, no fucking shit. So I jump out. Well, he comes over and he hands Chris this little pass. And he was like, hey man, like, how long have you been out here waiting this morning? And, you know, Chris told him 8:30. And he said, well, here, to show my appreciation, you get a free ride on the Blackwing. And if you don't know Cletus McFarland, he ended up getting a Cadillac Blackwing. I think it was like a salvage title or I don't know. Maybe it was totaled. I don't know. But he brought it back to life, and now it is a drift car. And so that's what Chris got. He won a free ride for coming in early. So about 11:50, everybody starts moving, and the gates weren't supposed to open until like 12 o'clock. But I guess because traffic had backed up into the main road, like it had really spilled out into the main road, they opened 10 minutes early. And so we were just like, hell yeah, let's go, let's go. And I wanted to be on the tree line this year. And just in case I needed to take a shower, I rather take a shower where there's a tree line. So we get there early like we wanted to. We got to meet Cletus, and then we got the tree line. So those were like the three things that we really, really, really wanted to do this year. And so we go in, we get our campsite set up, meet our neighbors, and I'm texting my homegirl that is supposed to come down there with her family, and she's asking me, hey, you need anything from Costco? And I'm like, waters, we forgot water. But of course, you know, we remember the beers, duh, and our Powerades. But anywho, so, all right, so we're in there at 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock, if you have VIP pass, you can get in to go hang out with everybody. You can meet some of the crew, well, like Cletus's crew, like Jack Stand and Zach and Ty and Mr. Sam and JH Diesel and Cletus and all those people and Squirrel. And so we get in there and it's so awesome. Just the vibe of it all. And we go around there, we get something to eat because we hadn't eaten yet that morning. And we're just kind of waiting around for them to say, hey, the Blackwing ride and all of this. And we didn't hear it. And we were just like, you know what? At this point, we were exhausted from the last 2 days. And we were just like, all right, we're going to go back. I need to change into my outfit for the race that night. We're going to drink a couple of beers and get ready to go in. And so we come back out at like right before 3 o'clock. Well, even inside when we were meeting Cletus, he was texting his people. He was like, hey, I can't hear the music. Well, I guess they turned the music up, but they didn't turn the PA up. So Chris ended up missing his ride. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And I felt so bad. Because you couldn't hear the PA system outside. And then whenever we had gone back in after he had missed his ride, you could barely hear the PA system inside. So I was really, really upset. But Chris got Cletus to sign his little thing. And so we still have it. But the race went on. We drank a bunch of beer. We screamed. We had a lot of fun. If you ever go, and if you're VIP, sit on turn 2. because that is where you're going to get a lot of your action. And it's up close and personal. So I will never sit anywhere else other than turn 2 when we go to these things. I had a white tank top on, and my tank top was covered in tire. You will need sunglasses. I ended up having to give my friend's daughter my sunglasses because we ended up getting splashed with antifreeze because someone smacked the wall right in front of us. So, and then the tires and stuff. And I'm like, well, I have contacts on. I can just peel them out. It's fine. All right. So after the race, he did the biggest fireworks show he's ever done. And I got to enjoy it this year. I mean, I enjoyed it last year. I was being proposed to, and I really enjoyed it. But I really got to enjoy it this year. And boy, it did not disappoint. It was freaking amazing. All right, let's see. Oh, I didn't talk about when we were on the way to the Bradenton KOA on that day 2. We saw alligator roadkill. No, he was not alive. He was dead. Like, he had white shit growing all over his body. It was disgusting. And Chris was like, I could stop. I got a hatchet. I could stop and go cut his head off. I'm like, hell no. I can only imagine what that smells like. Okay, so we ended up partying with our friends after the race. And holy moly, it got crazy. Our boy Luke, I was asking him, I'm like, what's in your cup? And he was like, here, taste it. And so I tasted it. I'm like, what the hell is that? It was blackberry crown and root beer. And that, I know, it sounds disgusting. That shit was good. It was so good. But yeah, we partied our asses off that night with our friends that we got to reunite with after a year, and we got to meet more new friends that we get to see next year, and I'm very excited. It was definitely well worth all the trouble. I'm very glad that we did not turn around and with our tails between our legs when the tire thing happened on day 1. I'm very glad we didn't just get towed back to Ren's and bring a tent. Hell no. All right, so let's move on to Saturday. So technically, that would be like day 4 for us. Well, I guess day 3, technically. But day 4, we woke up, and this year you had to buy tickets separately. So a separate ticket to the Freedom 500, and then you had to buy a ticket to the burnout competition. Last year it was not like that. So they were both included, but this year you had to buy 2 separate tickets. We did not, we had our feel of the burnout competition last year, and we really couldn't see anything, and that's not really something that we were into. We didn't really want to watch all of that. So I'm like, if we wanted to watch it, we've got Freedom Plus. We can just watch it on the TV, and it's right there. But Chris decided, since we missed out on our pool day on day 1, he said, well, why don't we go halfway and have a pool day? And I'm like, if that's what you want to do. And so we packed up real quick, sent a text out to our friends, said bye, we'll see you next year, we'll keep in touch. And we headed to Orlando. And that took 3 hours. So 3 hours we went to Orlando, and it wasn't that bad of a ride. So we get there, and boom, there's a pool, and our campsite is right near the pool. And I'm like, score. I'm like, but Chris has got gear oil all over his shirt from the first day. His laundry is starting to pile up. I was like, I need to do a load of laundry. And thankfully, the laundry room is right next to the pool. So threw all that stuff in. We got something to eat. We chilled by the pool pretty much for the rest of the day. I think we were out there for 8 hours. So that was very relaxing, and it was well worth all of the trouble. We didn't really do much that day. We just kind of hung out by the pool, people watched, we ate, and then we had a fire that night. They had a really nice fire pit, and then we just went to bed. And so day 5, we drove to Flagler Beach, and that was our final destination on our trip. Was to spend 2 days at Flagler Beach, and so that was another 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and we got there and we drove up A1A, and it was so cool. We did like I think 25 miles up A1A, and it was just so nice knowing like we made it. This is our final destination of the trip, and we get to spend 2 days here. We don't have to get up and rush out in the morning, and the beach is my happy place. I love the beach. I like looking for seashells. I like digging in the sand. I just like sitting there and getting lost in the ocean. Watching the waves, closing my eyes and just listening. It's just calming to me. So last year we didn't get to go to the beach, but this year, Chris has changed his mindset on the beach. The place that we stayed at it's called Treasure by the Sea, and it's an older little beachfront campground. The lady was telling us, oh, the bathrooms are so old and people don't really use them, and I didn't see a problem with them. Is it a 5-star hotel bathroom? Absolutely not. It's an older place. So, I mean, it's right by the sea, so of course shit's going to look a little dirty, but they were always clean. They smelled clean, and that's all that I cared about. There weren't bugs up in the ceiling and stuff everywhere. But our spot was right next to the stairs. And I mean, the stairs were a little sketchy. I don't know. The stairs in Savannah don't have shit on the stairs at Flagler Beach. These were, so there was like maybe 2 or 3 wooden steps, and then the rest of them were sandbags. And they were kind of all which way and all that stuff. So, no, we had pulled into Treasure by the Sea, and people were kind of looking at us like, what the fuck? There's something going on. That's an ambulance. So we immediately parked. We got out, we opened up the back doors, and we hadn't even gotten anything out of the camper yet, the ambulance. And people are coming over, is everything okay? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we just saw an ambulance pull up, and they looked in, and they're like, no way, you converted it into a camper? And we're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with anyone. And we had even painted the outside of it. So, like, yeah, the body looks like a ambulance, but the paint doesn't. And so, I don't know. But we met some people, and they were super cool. It was very relaxing. And then we got invited to a beach bonfire. And I've never been to a beach bonfire before. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. And it was literally right down the steps to the right, and it was just right there, and it was so cool. Now the one downfall was, I don't know if this is a seasonal thing for Florida, because I have gone to, when did I go? This was years ago. I had gone to Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, I think that's how you pronounce it. Don't come for me. JW and I had gone at the end of May, and there was a bunch of seaweed and stuff, but it was like a lot of seaweed, that had come up on the shore. And at Flagler, there was some seaweed that had come up, but what was kind of messed up was, I'm really glad that I didn't step in it, because there were the man of wars, that were kind of wrapped up in them. And I'm the type of person where, like, I pick up trash and stuff on the beach, and I'm like, no, we're not litter bugs. And so I was picking it up, and then I'd gone over, and I had looked, and I'm glad I didn't touch it, because Originally, it's like they look real thin. Like once they die, once they lose their color, they look clear. And so they're really thin. And I'm like, is that a condom? But then I looked closer and I'm like, oh shit, no, that's one of those really dangerous jellyfish. And so we didn't mess with it. But there was a guy who let his dog down to run. And I guess it stepped on the man of war and got stung up real bad. And it was fine. The dog was fine. So we had gone down to the beach and it was fun. And then, we came back up and went to sleep. And it was so relaxing. The next morning, we just opened up the back doors, and it was so relaxing. And I had already been up and gone down to the beach and had my coffee and walked up and down and had a hoodie pocket full of seashells, and I brought them back. And so that day was super duper chill. And then the next morning, which was Tuesday, it was our last day. It was the day we were leaving. We had gotten up at 6 a.m. to watch the sunrise. And then we were going to just leave after we watched the sunrise. And it was so beautiful. And then that's when Chris told me, he was like, this beach, this spot has completely changed my perspective on beach, on like the beach. I'm just not the type of, don't get me wrong, I love kids and I love family focused beaches, but I don't want to go to an overcrowded beach where there's a bunch of whining ass kids saying, Mommy, I'm bored. Oh, blah, blah, blah. No. When it's just me and my husband, I want us to be able to relax. We live in a house full of people. We went on a 6-day vacation to get away from everyone, and it was relaxing. And we came back and we're in a great mood. We're rested and reconnected. And I think that's very important for adults to do is, yes, it doesn't mean that you don't love your family. It's, you need to prioritize your relationship with your spouse, because at the end of the day, your children are going to get older and they are going to move out and they are going to have their own thing. And then it is going to be you and your husband back at home. Prioritize your relationship, prioritize your marriage. Your children will not be at home forever, unless they have a disability. Okay. But our children will not be home forever. My husband and I have older kids. 16, 19, 24. So, that's why we travel. That's why we do the things that we do. They don't want to hang out with us. Our 16-year-old, he will straight up say, hey, I'll be interested in that for 5 minutes. There's no point in spending the money. And so, but just over the years, he's learned that and understood it about himself. So anyways, that is our trip. We got home safe and sound Wednesday, and Thursday we were back on a routine. No, we got home Tuesday. Sorry. Wednesday we were back on a routine. Chris was back at work. I was washing clothes and doing what I do at home. Making dinner that no one wanted to eat. And so yeah, that was our vacation, and I cannot wait to do it again. I cannot wait to take the ambulance out, even to our lake, to go camping for a weekend. We're already pricing out the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the race that's going to be in July. For 4 days up there, but I don't know if I want to stay 4 days in Atlanta. So anyways, welcome back. I will see you guys next week, and let me know what you want to hear in the comments. Okay? What you want me to talk about, what you need me to have an opinion on, confessions or whatnot. All right, I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye.